Get a new glass there. That was far from ideal.
Well, we're a mess. We're a mess. Hi, I'm Rita.
Hi,
Nice
I'm
to meet
Paul.
you. Nice to meet you, Paul. How are you doing today?
Really good. Welcome to Dell. Thank you for making the time to come here.
Thank you for having me. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Dell and what are you having?
So let's start with obviously tea, English breakfast, of course. I work for Dell Technologies, have done for a while, and I lead the team of specialists that look after pre-sales for our workloads like artificial intelligence, workloads at the edge, all of kind of the exciting stuff that's happening in the technology world today.
Nice. I honestly didn't know Dell had AI products or AI projects, so I'm excited to find out more about what these projects are. I'm sure they have impacted my day-to-day life, but probably just didn't know who actually led those projects.
Let's find out. It's really interesting how much AI is already there. We all know it's not new, but how far it's come is quite interesting in itself. But
do you think the word AI is just a hype? Because it's been mentioned quite a lot in every kind of scenario these days, but what does it actually mean?
There's a wonderful TED talk by Fifi Lee, professor at Stanford University, also works at Meta, part of the school that Andrew Ng went to. And for those folks that know these names, great. If not, look them up. The TED talk's from a little while ago, 10, 15 years ago, and she starts by saying, in teaching computers to see, you couldn't buy a grant from the government. There was no... It was seen as, a bit of a science project. Now computer vision's a big thing, and it's not just the computer seeing in our definition. It's what NASA do, seeing into how algae's blooming around the oceans. It's looking beneath the ocean. It's looking deeper into space, inside our bodies at a molecular level. So again, the whole thing's come of age as software has become more available, developers become more knowledgeable.
And hardware has been
the
better.
The infrastructure's just, Moore's law has applied, and then innovative companies like NVIDIA have just jumped on it and said, yeah, we want to lead this. And I'm happy to be part of that.
Nice, that's amazing. And now we have AIs that can hear that are open to everybody. Google announced Gemini 1.5. So you just give it an audio and then it can analyze and actually respond to you just on the chat.
And again, it might not surprise people, but the universities in Scotland, and I think it was Edinburgh, have developed something an AI that can taste.
Oh.
Particularly useful if you're in, say, a large industry that might rely on distilling products that have very complex tastes. So the whiskey industry is going, that would be interesting. Where is it going to end?
Wow.
I know.
I don't know. Oh, and now we have telepathy with Neuralink. And did you see their first human test? He succeeded, and the guy moved the mouse and now can play game on a computer.
I did not see that.
Just by thinking.
I've been a fan of Professor Cyborg, who for a while worked at Reading University, and he did an amazing experiment a few years ago where an individual in New York who had trouble moving their hands due to an injury thought about moving their hands, and as Cyborg in the University of Reading, the fingers moved on it. And you're like, yeah, as we're starting to understand more about ourselves, we can translate that into useful things. So people who are limited in movement, AI might help them work. Yeah. Plus all the other great, imagine doing that and a spacecraft gets fixed. How clever would that be?
That would be very efficient. We won't have to build those rockets and spend millions. We could end hunger. Anyway, let's not get into the politics. But should we have a sit down and actually continue the chat
Thank you
over
very
there?
much, yes.
How do you want to do this? Do we just walk?
We just walk out.
Now. Before we dive into the conversation, I would love to have an explanation of some words that we'll be saying quite a lot throughout this video, like cloud computing, edge computing, quantum computing, artificial intelligence. Would you explain it to us like you would to I don't know, 15-year-old in very simple words?
In the industry, we'll throw things out like data center and assume everyone knows what that means. And then in the industry, you'll get a picture in your mind of a data center, which is a warehouse, a room with air conditioning. It's normally quite loud because fans are blowing cool air to keep machinery cool. But actually, long time ago when my son was a lot younger, he nailed it when I said, what do you think a data center is? He said, it's a center full of data. And yet, but actually,
That is what it is.
do you know what? From a functional point of view, yes, it's computing data or waiting for data to be computed or moving it to somewhere where it's adding value to whatever it's there to do. That physicality of that's like looking at the engine of a car saying, well, there's a piston, that doesn't matter so much. It matters deeply to infrastructure people, of course. And cloud computing, very much the same. You can get stickers on machines that say somebody else's computer. Yes, but it's a bit more than that. It's an operating model. You can start to say cloud native, meaning you have software systems that operate anywhere and scale quickly up or down. Whereas old-fashioned technology was often very, you design for a certain number, and if you add more on.
But cloud computing relies on data centers, right?
They're not one and the same. It's difficult to offer cloud computing if somewhere there isn't a data center that's doing all of the computing and storing the data.
Not really cloud,
but yeah,
it's in the earth.
Absolutely down there. The cloud computing has to rely on the basic physics of computing and data movement. But equally, cloud computing is really difficult to do without the sort of network that we take for granted now that provides the internet, provides 5G, etc. All of these advances are bringing things up. So artificial intelligence has been around as a concept like robots for a long time. What we're seeing is a confluence of the ability to deliver this at scale, whether you do it through a data center managed with tools from a big hyperscaler or a small local company, or you do it yourself on your laptop as a project for a school or for your business.
And what about edge computing?
Where is the edge? Edge computing is a wonderful industry phrase. One of the best definitions I heard was it's the sort of computing that happens away from the desktop, away from the data center. So edge computing in a retail business might be the stuff you need to happen in the store or in the warehouse. If you're in the farming business, it's literally what's happening in the field. If you're NASA, it's hundreds of thousands of miles away. So the edge is very much defined by the organization that you are, but typically it is the word will suggest where it's going, where the computing and the intelligence has to happen away from the traditional place, the data center. And we get asked as Dell Technologies with our ecosystem to do this a lot. Put in computer vision, computers that can see but not recognize people. That's not important. Yeah. What a retailer might want to do is say, oh, there's a big queue forming at the till. Instead of someone having to press a button or shout, hey, Paul, come and open the other till. Why not have an AI send a little alert to the staff, boot up the till so all they do is swipe, fingerprint, whatever, and the queue splits. One of my favorite use cases, and everyone's heard of CERN, the place that invented it, underneath the mountain in Switzerland with a big, large hadron collider. Talk to the physicists there, and they'll tell you something like more than 99% of the data created by that big experiment is thrown away, disposed of. Yeah, that makes sense. They know what they're seeing. You can just make a note, yes, known physics occurred for 99. Oh, it's the outlier they're looking for.
Yep.
And if you're in an edge environment where you're looking for an outlier, maybe a vehicle that's making an illegal turn, going too fast, going too slow, a pedestrian where they shouldn't be, someone lying down on a railway station platform where you really wouldn't expect prone humans. That's the outlier you're looking for. The 23 hours, 59 minutes of an empty platform.
It's okay.
Get rid of it.
Wow.
Keep the metadata, 23 hours of nothing.
I really like what you said to me the other time we met. You were like, accountants should now include data as part of the assets that you have as a business because it's so important. So can we elaborate a little bit more on that? Especially now that it's all over the news that all of the tech giants are running out of data to train their AI models and now generating fake data to enhance the AI models. that is similar to the original data.
And what you were giving away was of little or no value, so it was okay.
Yeah.
Now more and more we're starting to think of examples that when you actually locate the Higgs boson particle, I'll go back to CERN because, hey, that is of extreme value. All of the things that got up to that in the past, well, that's just my workings. Actually, when you bring in an AI that needs to learn, those workings become your teaching material. It's like the medical textbook. What's the important thing a doctor needs? They need their certificate to practice. The 7 years plus the practical work in the hospital is now of material value as well, because you're trying to build an assistant in digital format for that very clinician. So the data becomes highly valuable. And maybe for the first time since way ago, medieval times where few people could read. So someone who could read, could understand and interpret data was like a really important person in their community. Now we've got the data scientists, not so visibly important, but they're starting to say, do I need to train a machine to recognize a human face? Yes. And let's say it's for medical reasons. And why are they recognizing the face? They're looking for slight blemishes that might show skin cancer. So there's my use case. Just go with that as an example. Do you really need, once you understand the science of skin cancer, to actually train the machine with a real human face? At which point people go, hang on, doctors train with textbooks. They're a real book, but not a patient. Surgeons train with dolls. So we've been doing synthetic data for a long time. They still might want to chop a dead body apart, and that sounds morbid, but anatomy came from certain places. So synthetic data can be just as valuable. And a brilliant video from our friends at NVIDIA, where they trained some of their robots that form the Isaac model. For fans of science fiction, yes, it's Isaac Asimov. And with hockey. And if you were Canadian, you'd be going, I get that. But the machine can learn from a game of hockey just as well as it can learn from watching a match of real players. In fact, they'll probably learn the rules in the game a little quicker. Yeah. The real match has a bit of chaotic nature to it. So actually blend both, you get a better trained machine, and then train it on real world data as that occurs. Keep your machine, your AI up to date with real data.
That makes a lot of sense. But given that, how can we build AIs that are trained to help us and instead of sell to us? Because yes, when you put the applications of healthcare sector in education, they make complete sense.
Yeah.
But for the rest,
there's got to be three things. So the responsible AI means the intent has to be sound. And I'm going to genuinely be controversial. Defense, whether it's self-defense or defense of property or your border, might be a really solid thing to do. Have AI look at, and I love this example, work with a partner where if you drive a train through a set of sensors, it can analyze the train and start to send data back saying, that bolt on that wheel looks a bit odd, you might want to check that. So it can save hundreds of hours. You could do the same with a military vehicle. But actually controlling your border might be, with a lot of overland transport, there might be some vehicles that you just don't feel a fit and safe on your roads, but the country they've come from go, yeah, whatever. You have a right to protect your citizens and your visitors from unsafe vehicles. And AI can help you make that decision and make it in a very mathematical and sound and unbiased way.
How? I can see it in trains, but in cars.
Drive the car through a set of sensors at the border, and you can suddenly go, hey, look, hang on, our weight limit on our roads is, I'm making this up, 40 tons. You got 120 tons in that vehicle. No, you're not coming in. You then deal with it. Again, for years, we've had paperwork. There's a, show me what's inside that container. And you don't open it up. You show people the paperwork. We have operated in a virtual world since Niall Ferguson said in The Ascent of Money, money was invented. Caesar's coin wasn't real money. We just go, oh yeah, that's worth something. So again, artificial intelligence is just bringing some of that virtual world into connection with the real world. And the technology is putting it in our hands, on screens, in sensors, up in space, under the oceans. It's very gripping.
It's definitely a unique point. Connecting new neurons in my head for sure. And it's all about the intent. So what are some of the coolest projects you worked here at Dell that had amazing intent and that have impacted probably millions of people? They just don't know about it.
So one of our favorites, and it's on the website, you can search this, it's a citizen data science project led by the protectors of the Great Barrier Reef. Now, it's people who run trips to the Great Barrier Reef. If the coral all dies, their livelihood is gone. It's like fishermen want to protect fish stocks. It's in their interest. And the citizen data scientists and some of the people that run the dives started to say, if we could collect all the photographs the tourists take, we can start to build up a long-term model of how the coral is surviving, not surviving, expanding. Just take a better view of the barrier reef. In some ways unscientific, but the sheer volume of images they would capture, plus other things like ocean temperature, built the Great Barrier Reef project into something that we're now understanding far more about what's really happening through the direct observation of the thousands of people that visit it. So instead of being, oh, all the tourists are causing a problem, no, the data they collect can be used to manage the problem, understand the problem. It's a wonderful project. It's a wonderful project with lots of data science and AI, but it starts with the tourist taking a picture on their underwater camera.
Wow, that's amazing. That's how taking a situation that you don't think is very positive and turning it into something that actually works. And I love that mindset.
But it actually works because everything is there. It just took a group of really smart people in the dive schools to go, we really care about this. Actually, there's lots of images. Why don't we put this together?
Yeah.
And yeah, we're really proud to be part of that sort of work.
What about the City of Amarillo project?
We've worked with our ecosystem and a brilliant partner at Amarillo, which you may know is not a big city. Some people would say a big town. They wanted to improve their citizen experience, and using that sort of digital connection, you can build an avatar that kind of looks quite human and can interact in the language that you approach it with. So if you're visiting Amarillo and your first language is Brazilian, you ask away in Brazilian Portuguese, and I have it on good authority, there is a difference, and it will reply. They will respond accordingly. And obviously you have to train the avatar in the languages. So it's not every language ever. AI makes it possible.
Yeah, I love how it's making a lot of things easy for us. I think a lot of the resistance that's coming from people is because they hear all about these layoffs that are happening, companies adopting these technologies to now maybe fire a customer support person or a translator that would come in and have a full-time job within that. But honestly, I don't see it that way. We've always had these revolutions as humans.
That's
We've
right.
always changed the courses. Some of the job that I have today would have not existed.
Doesn't exist.
Like 40 years ago, this was not possible. Who knew you could make money with TikTok? What's your advice for people who are now facing these challenges in their careers and the career paths that they picked? How can they use AI into their benefit and actually take advantage of this revolution?
It's such a profound question, and you're right. If there was no such thing as progress, to misquote Doug Adams, we'd be banging the rocks together. Really? There comes a point where you say, okay, AI is not just another tool. This might have the impact that electricity had and before that steam had. So what it allows is, humanity to progress. We might have better medical care, closer to the individual, right on the edge. I love the idea of you're operating at the edge and there's a touch screen and you go into a fast food restaurant and I want that. Is that what you want? Yes. Do you want any of this? No. I don't need to talk to a human to do that. I have ordered my breakfast. I'm good. Other times, and here we are in our London office, I know the name of the individual at the breakfast plate that some mornings that human interaction is worth its weight in gold.
Yes.
Do you know, I do pay a little more for that. I think the coffee's really good as well.
Yeah.
But
the reception lady downstairs, she had some good things to say about you. She was like, I was like, Polish, she was like, oh, second person. I was like, yeah.
But again, do you want to be greeted by a machine when you come into a building? It depends what the building is.
Mm-hmm.
If we've got,
Context.
yeah, learn the names of the people that you interact with regularly. Of course, that's how humans work. So I do believe that you won't lose your job to an AI. You'll lose your job to someone working with an AI. Broadly speaking, the technology and whether you've got synthetic data or real world data to train your machines and then constantly update them. Look for work where elements of intuition or human interaction are going to be high, but don't worry then if the report that you write up is written by the machine. Because I don't know if medical people, writing up the notes was not what they went to doctor's school for.
Yeah.
They went there to make people feel better.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully cure them, not to spend 20 minutes writing up notes.
That's true. That is true.
So that's where I think that will go.
Yeah. And do you think the hardware is following up to support these kind of advancements? It runs on the hardware.
Yeah, everything runs on hardware. Even if it's in the cloud, it's a piece of kit somewhere. What we pride ourselves on doing is, okay, let's optimize that. So there's a sustainability element there. Let's then look at how we take the infrastructure itself and optimize it for particular types of software. This machine used to have one type of processor in it. The new version of this has 3 types. And that's because there's different pieces of kit doing different work. Operations then become more efficient. You can do a ton more on a single machine. And we're working at extending the life of that machine. It's more sustainable because you use it for longer. Yeah. All bits of those hardware are critical. So you start to optimize your infrastructure for the outcome you want.
That's true. I don't know if you heard, but yesterday Meta announced they're making their own AI chips. So they are to reduce their dependency on the only 2 famous companies are NVIDIA and AMD that are making this kind of hardware.
Yeah, Intel are coming in. They're coming on. It's like a horse race. They're all good.
And governments are also trying to get as much involved in this as possible. I feel like this is the new goal. Data has been for the last 20 years or so, but I think we're moving towards who can build the most efficient pieces of hardware so that we can get better applications and faster applications for people. We all want smaller, more efficient, faster, do it for me tech, but so everyone is trying to deliver that. Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think is this where we're going? We're going to be this hybrid race with tech all over us. I mean, we already are. But.
So let's take that for a minute because you've answered your own question. So at a human level, we don't want to be one up on someone, but more importantly, we want to be part of the human race. Now, for me, that means I take these off and you go out of focus there. The tree behind me is completely gone. So is this artificial? Yeah. It's also pretty rapid. The lens bends the light and I can see. Instant gratification. Glasses, who'd have thought? You'll observe carefully, I've got a hearing aid in. Again, if I take those out, I cannot hear bird song. Now, you might say in the great city of London, there is nothing worse than waking up at daybreak hearing this cacophony because it's quite a green city. I missed it. And that's when I realized my hearing was going. Long story. But those are minor things. If I could embed that so I didn't have to change them all the time and the batteries were safe, or if say I had a heart problem, I could embed some tech that kept my heart regular. Well, that's a pacemaker, isn't it? We've had them for years. Humans will ask for it if it makes their life better. You've got to be careful. I don't want some pacemaker that I bought from the market in Camden on Tuesday and it was £5, so just guy down the pub fitted it. Yeah. Not going to end well, I'll be sure. But regulate that sort of thing, make sure it's safe. And then, do you know what? As it becomes commoditized, we all just level up a bit.
Regulate. You said that word. It definitely caught my attention. Regulate that. We've all been trying, and governments have been trying to regulate AI and development and software for ages now, because it's all open source and AI is learning from that open source. It's not creating, it is making new code, but it's not 100% original. They all started in different projects. The EU AI Act came out. Us in the UK, we are making our own ISO AI regulation. But can it really work? Can you regulate code?
So
How are you going to even do that?
Again, since nothing is new, so we're told, I'm not taking this as a philosophical question. I'm not a regulator, but the question was, can you? So let's go back a few hundred years, and here in the UK, and I think the Gutenbergs actually invented the printing press out there in a place we now call Germany, but again, back then there was no Germany. Printing press came out, William Caxton was here, and they started to realize that you could print quite seditious material. We think the king might not be doing a good job, which is British for let's revolt. Extra cup of tea. And the first thing, how do you regulate the printing press? Good grief, now you're going to teach people to read? Oh my heavens, it's the end of the world. Now actually it isn't. It was a huge progression. What we learned was educated people behave differently from poorly educated people. What we learned is reading was a good way to educate people. Now AI may remove the need for certain types of education, but actually enhance types of education that we haven't really thought about yet. So what you're trying to regulate is this genie that's floating around. Will it take time to get the right regulation? Yes, it will. Does that mean it's best not to bother trying? Absolutely not. There's elements of common sense. There's also elements of social responsibility for the collective and for the individuals that need special and extra protection. AI may actually start to support suggestions for effective regulation, because Lord knows there's plenty of ineffective regulation.
So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of regulation is, hey, you can't train your AI on public YouTube videos in Europe, for example.
Yeah.
Which is what all the US companies have been doing, because now we are going to have Sora pretty soon. And apparently they can't answer if they trained it on YouTube videos or not.
Right.
But do you see it as something that would be useful to say, hey, don't train your AIs on this kind of data because it's part of this country? Wouldn't that limit the innovation and the advancement of the companies in that specific country if you're doing that?
It's really interesting, wasn't it? We have already seen regulation on the infrastructure, so that if stuff's designed somewhere, made somewhere else, let's not export that to this country, organization, whatever, or let's have a double check because we don't want re-export of this advanced technology. So at an infrastructure level, the collective we are used to being regulated, and it's a good thing. Should you say, don't use that sort of data, we don't approve of it, that could be risky. But again, you maybe need to start somewhere and then refine it.
Yeah.
Because say you're training an AI to bake bread so that you can get a simple oven that's solar powered that can feed people who need feeding quickly. And you train them using YouTube because YouTube has a great, but you've now broken the law of the land in the nation of Scotland, whatever.
Yeah, your intent was good, so it still serves
Exactly.
its
The regulators need to think this through. So do the tech companies, so do
Yeah.
folks who want to do this. I don't think it will stifle innovation, but what we need is a greater dialogue. And I met one customer who said something which I felt was revolutionary. Tech folks meet their legal counsel once a week. Now, I will guarantee you go back 10 years, that meeting would never have happened. Go back 20 years, nobody would have thought it important. Now, weekly. Message to everyone in the tech industry: if you don't know who your legal counsel is in your company, go find out, because you probably have some common ground now.
Last question. What do you think the world will look like in an AG universe? Are you more of an optimistic person who thinks, okay, people are going to have more free time, you less admin work. We're actually going to be able to enjoy our lives a lot better. Our time on this earth is the most valuable thing we have. So are you from that point of view, or are you from, we might not have jobs and poverty will get worse?
Or straight down, I mean, nothing will change. There's nothing surer than change. I think technology, generally, when you look at the trend, means more people have full bellies, they're better educated, health improves, life gets generally better. There are horrific bumps in that. On the whole, we can see technology, whether it's agricultural technology through to the stuff we talk about with advanced artificial intelligence, general artificial intelligence, and securing that, making sure the guide rails are strong, baking that into the infrastructure. So the software hits a wall. We know how to do that. We know how to contain software in a machine. So that all suggests that as I say, I might, instead of choosing glasses, choose some sort of contact lens that connects to my own brain and tunes it to daylight, weather conditions, whatever. It makes it comfortable, make sure my eyes are hydrating the contact lenses with a new material that's infinitely sustainable. What a fantastic way to give people who can't see some sight. And then extend that to people with congenital problems, curing sight disease, starting to anticipate at a genetic level whether you have a propensity for that, so the contact lenses go on sooner so you don't start to lose your sight. Everything in about that is a really good thing, but there's someone who could misuse it. Of course they could.
Of course.
But generally it will be a good thing if you can have better educated people who can work well, but spend more time doing the things they love with the people that they love, meeting new people, learning new things, going to new places. Why would you not embrace that? Why would you not drive that human curiosity through technology progress?
It's always a breath of fresh air talking to you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
The opposite conversation that you see about AI these days on the media in general. It's all, oh, we're replacing people with these avatars. There's layoffs, there's technology misuse for military, there's drones and robots with Boston Dynamics for I don't know what. So there's always so much focus on things that are really not bettering our well-being, where a lot of the research and the big data and most of the advancements that we're doing are being used as well by really smart people into things that can make our lives better, either in cities or for health. It's not just all about advertisement.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with using AI to sell things. Look, I get it. It might be better clickbait to say, if we do this, the end of the world is nigh. Storytellers have known that a good disaster is a great story around a campfire. But actually, I find it really interesting that the uplifting stories that, whether we tell children to help them go to sleep safer, or the stories that authors have known for years are the ones we really buy at quantity, at scale. And you know what Hollywood always say? Happy ending, fade to black, play the names, happy song.
Yeah, that's true. Hollywood is another industry that we didn't spoke about, but they're quite similar to AI at the moment. Do you even want original movies? We still do. We still do.
The barrier to entry with AI is lowered massively.
Yeah.
Massive. You're an entrepreneur, you can look like the big company, you can do what they do, you could do it better for a fraction of the cost and the investment you as an individual or your investors need to make. At the scale you do it is way, way lower than it was 5, 10, 15 impossible years ago.
Yeah. I don't know who said it, but they said that we might soon see a one-person unicorn just because of the work. If they use an AI, they have so much more impact than a lot of people. Yeah. Do you think that would be possible?
I'd love to say I've met them, but you do. We're very privileged at Dell because Michael Dell's still there. Entrepreneurs look to Dell and go, see if you can help me. So do have conversations with people that kind of go, you want to do this and this, we do this and this, and we've got an ecosystem that helps with that. Look, I was in a room so similar to this, it would scare you. And the entrepreneur looked at us and went, let's just go ahead and do it. And that's when you're like, that's what entrepreneurs do. They just go, yeah, let's do it. And there isn't a committee. The board of one has just made a decision. We all looked at each other and went, and there is that, would we, could we, should we? And they're actually, do you know what the entrepreneur she's just done? Cleared the way. We have permission.
Yeah.
This is very empowering. Meanwhile, big companies are sitting there going, let's check and consult. And 5 years later, small companies now, so riddle this, ask your content people, when was Google founded? Was it in the 1960s? Was it in the 70s? Do you think it was as early as the 80s? Or would you stupidly say it was when Britpop was famous and it was the 1990s? What do you think?
1990s.
You see?
No.
Whatever the answer is, I bet you are more right than someone who said the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you say Google, people assume you mean search the internet, not the company. That's
Alphabet.
how
Yeah.
Alphabet's the company now. Exactly. Google's become a verb, to Google.
And
The company-
did you see they're buying now HubSpot?
I didn't know.
Yeah, they're
That's cool.
buying HubSpot, which is very surprising because HubSpot in itself was generating billions. Very weird. And how the industry is merging. It's like becoming a one tech stack. Everyone is trying to buy as much as possible. I haven't heard of any Dell acquisitions, although your stock is doing well, but I haven't heard.
Thank you.
What's the latest acquisition?
So the biggest acquisition was a few years ago now, where Michael Dell took the Dell company and created Dell Technologies by bringing the EMC organization together. That has run its course, and part of the big news in that is reported Broadcom now own the VMware part of that business and paid a lot for that. And so what we're seeing is, as in our world, things changing as we see our customers desiring transformation. We're getting to build ourselves into be a shape that best meets their needs. What the acquisition strategy will be is not for me to say. It may be we say, do you know what, let's wait and see. Let's actually build an ecosystem. And I believe a big future for our industry is getting those ecosystems. So we as Dell Technologies know what we do. We do wonderful infrastructure. We want to be the infrastructure company of choice. We know how to secure that. We're really good at protecting that data, but also recovering when bad things happen.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Rita and Paul, thank you for having me. I've learned quite a lot today, and I hope you did as well. And Paul, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I'm going to put down your LinkedIn. Maybe.
Perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
Big fan of LinkedIn.
Just testing that. You're good. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
What do you call someone who really understands how to use AI and also understands what business and governments want from AI? What do you call them? There's a collective noun that we have. You call someone who really understands how to use AI. Also what companies and business, public want.
No.
We call them billionaires.
Yeah.